About a month ago, I did a major overhaul of my website with the goal to boost its performance. The results were disappointing. After migrating my two-faced Silver Stripe and WordPress website to be WordPress only, and then switching to PHP 8 for its speed boost, it wasn't really much of a boost. And that really annoyed me. So today, I'm trying again. I've got plenty of recommendations, but will any of those make a difference? Let's find out. To be clear, it's not like the website's really slow. Actually, a lot of it's pretty good. So the blog post and the store page, they all take about 1 second to load when I access it from here, which is half a world away from the server. An add to cart takes about 1.3 seconds. However, the checkout page takes about 4.7 seconds to fully load. And the Kea Campus membership homepage takes 8 agonizing seconds to load. And that's not the kind of service I want to be delivering to anybody. And so it's those last two that I want to change, the checkout page and the Kea Campus. What's happening is most of the pages are static, meaning they don't change. So they can be cached and served from a CDN like Cloudflare. The dynamic pages like the checkout and the membership homepage, however, that's where the server's true speed shines through. So, what can I do about it? I've already got caching and optimization plugins installed. I'm using Cloudflare as CDN, so that's supposed to speed things up. The database is optimized. And I'm using Astra, which is supposed to be a fast theme. What else is there? The remaining recommendations I have are first, use a faster server, so upgrade the server even more. Minimize the amount of JavaScript and other files that you're loading in the page. Use as few WordPress plugins as possible, which is a bit of a joke when you're using WooCommerce because you can never usually need quite a few extra plugins to make a full shop. And finally, slow down and/or block bots because overactive bots visiting your website can tax the server and slow it down for everyone. So, let's see what we can do. First up is hosting. So the recommendation is to use a high-end server. Now my website was on a 2-core server over at Cloudways, which I thought should be enough for a site with my kind of traffic. And I could upgrade the server to a lot in Cloudways to an even more powerful server, but the monthly costs are escalating fast. So I bit the bullet and switched to Rocket.net. Feel a bit sad about leaving Cloudways because they've been great, but this is worth a shot. Makes using a high-end server more affordable for me. So Rocket.net used the Lightspeed server instead of Apache, which is supposed to be faster and more efficient. They also host websites on high-end servers and include Cloudflare Enterprise at no extra cost. So all of that should add up to a fast server. Next, I discovered that the Stripe plugin was adding a lot of JavaScript to product pages and these annoying express checkout buttons, which I didn't actually want. I didn't even know they were there. So I dug into the settings and disabled the express checkout buttons on the product pages, which in turn removed all that extra JavaScript. And after that, I discovered that the syntax highlighting plugin was loading all of its JavaScript for every single language on all pages. And this was a bit heavy on mobile devices. I enabled that out of laziness so that I didn't have to convert my blog posts. Anyway, so I disabled that and reworked all the old blog posts to use the new shortcode for syntax highlighting instead of the old pre-formatting tags. And that in turn removed that so that the syntax highlighting JavaScript is only loaded on the pages that need it, and only the code highlighting for the languages in use are loaded on those pages. And then finally, I did my best to slow down the bots because my server stats show orders of magnitude more hits to my server than my web analytics shows. So the vast majority of visits to my website are from bots. And a large number of that goes to the store account page, so they're trying to log in. Sounds a bit malicious. Also sounds like the dead internet theory is almost there. It's happening. Anyway, so I added a crawl delay to the robots.txt file to slow down well-behaved bots. It's only going to affect bots that actually obey robots.txt like Ahrefs or SEMrush, but it's worth a shot. Right? If I can slow them down a bit, it'll always help. And after that, I enabled Cloudflare's turnstile on the login pages and also the password reset forms in a bid to slow down the brute force hacking attempts that are continually hitting the website. It's too early to tell if any of those will make a difference. Time will tell. I don't know right now. So, how much of a difference did my efforts make? Before I show you the results, just a warning that the way I measure the page loading times has changed between the previous video and this one, because between that video and this one, the way Google Chrome's performance display works has changed. So I'm now taking the time until the initial screen is fully loaded, because that's actually what matters most to end users. It's like, is the bit that they can see on the screen, is that fully loaded? So results. Blog post, the store page, and add to cart, all no change. So blog and post and store loading take roughly 1 second. Add to cart, 1.3 seconds. Reloading the cart page went from 2.6 seconds down to 2.4, so slightly better, although almost the same really. The checkout page, annoyingly, remained unchanged at 4.7 seconds. Although I have to say the initial page loading takes about 1.7 seconds, but then the cart section and other parts are loaded asynchronously after that, and that all adds up to 4.7 seconds. The agonizingly slow Kea Campus membership homepage went from 8 seconds down to 5.9 seconds. So finally, something that's noticeably better, although 6 seconds, still kind of slow. At this point, I tried disabling more plugins on the cart and checkout pages using FreeSol's Deactivate Plugins plugin. Bit of a mouthful. What that plugin does is it allows you to disable plugins on particular pages or page types that are not needed for that page. So that should theoretically, with fewer plugins loading, it should be faster. I also discovered that I still had the ShipStation plugin installed even though I wasn't using it. Bit embarrassing, so I deleted that. And after all that, no noticeable difference. I tried using Query Monitor, which is another recommendation. The idea is you use Query Monitor to analyze the performance, find the bottlenecks, and then get developers to fix them. So it showed that database queries took up only 0.043 seconds, so a tiny fraction of a second. There were no outgoing API calls from the server to another server, so there are no API calls to slow down the response to the customer. It doesn't have to wait for another server to reply before it can respond to the customer. Yet, despite the database queries being so fast and no API calls, page generation is still taking 1.58 seconds. So where's the bottleneck? Clearly, the database is not the bottleneck. Often people say the database is the bottleneck, but no, it's a tiny fraction of a second. There were no outgoing API calls to slow things down. So that leaves just the actual PHP script execution, the WooCommerce plus plugins. That is still slow. And I think I'm hitting the point of diminishing returns. I have done everything I can think of, yet I still can't get the checkout page any faster. Maybe the problem is WordPress and WooCommerce itself. Maybe this is just the speed you can get. If you have a WooCommerce website, what's your website's checkout page loading speed? What's the average loading speed for the checkout page? Let us know in the comments below and we can compare notes. Does anybody have the checkout page loading in less than 2 seconds? If so, I'd love to know what you did. So that's a bit disappointing, but only because I've spent quite a bit of time optimizing and I have very little to show for it. So it's actually not too bad. The website is relatively fast on most pages, and it also seems to have less trouble with peak loads. So previously, I'd say at least once a day, I'd get the CPU going to 100% load and the entire website would slow to a crawl for everybody. That seems to be gone. The checkout page actually feels relatively responsive because the initial page load takes less than 2 seconds and then the rest loads asynchronously. So what that does is a fast initial page load gives customers enough feedback to say something's coming that they can wait the extra few seconds for the rest to load up. And also, I can recommend both Rocket.net and Cloudways for web hosts. Both of them deliver good performance, and both their tech support have been great. I'll leave a link to both of them below the video. Just be aware, Rocket.net is WordPress only, whereas Cloudways can host websites, websites running on other software as well. So, have you got any ideas on how I could optimize further? If so, leave a comment below. Otherwise, see you next time when I'll be back to programming and building stuff.